Walt, congratulations. After a delay, the Eagles pulled it off. So, to our listeners and viewers, we have Happy Walt today, not Cranky Walt, but Happy Walt coming to us live from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, after a tremendous Eagles win. In the autonomy markets, there's no sleep in. The Beastie Boys famously said there's no sleep till Brooklyn. In autonomy, there's no sleep till autonomy becomes a business. And boy, oh boy, this week, the autonomy markets really kicked into high gear. Tesla announced expansions. Waymo announced expansions going to the San Jose airport, which we called, going to Denver, and going to Seattle. Well, busy week. I got to say, this Waymo-Tesla is shaping up to be a heavyweight fight. Is this a Tyson Holyfield thing? And where do you think this is going? Because this week, the first round, goes to Waymo. What do you think?
It's definitely very fun, and there's clearly a competitive component between these two mega companies. At the same time, we're not going to fall asleep on the field, and we promise to continue to dedicate time to the host of others, whether trucking or even autonomy, that are out there and making real progress. And we'll get to one of those later in this podcast. By the way, thank you for wearing a Kelly Green a GB shirt today in honor of the Eagles' victory. I really appreciate that. But yeah, to your point, I agree. This week goes to Waymo. And we'll get to the Waymo expansion, in a couple of markets as well as the airport, on the news front. So good job for Waymo this week. This week goes to them. Maybe we'll have a weekly scorecard on this stuff.
A weekly scorecard would be great. Oh, I'll make this even better for you. How about I get a Waymo green shirt and a Tesla Robotaxi shirt, and I could rotate them each week, and that's how you know who won.
I love that idea. I definitely love that idea.
And don't worry, they'll be fully branded. As we watch this heavyweight fight, what do you think happens when all of a sudden Tesla announces, "Hey, we've got 1,000 Robotaxis in the market"? Do people, the not so nice people, start to take this more seriously?
This was a big week for Waymo for sure, but if Tesla did that, that would be obviously the mother of all advancements given their manufacturing capability. But I think Waymo can have a similar event in that we're waiting for, right now they're still sending a bunch of cars to be outfitted. So, once they start cranking Hyundais off the line, you have significantly more product hitting the market. That's also going to be a big event. So there will be some weeks that are much bigger than others. But I do like the idea of you picking a winner between these two. But again, maybe that's not a great idea because we can't fall asleep on Wave, on Nuro, on May Mobility, on the host of other companies. Sorry if I haven't mentioned yours that are out there that I think still have a shot at being a leader in this industry.
We'll continue to cover them, but you also have to look at the big dogs. And on the Hyundai front, I'll say this for the record, 2026 is going to be a big year for Hyundai. You have the Waymos coming off the line. You have the Avrides. And you're right, we will cover the entire ecosystem, continue to monitor it, because you never know who could eventually move into a bigger leadership position.
And speaking of the ecosystem, part of our day-to-day on this, you and I both do it, but in recent weeks, I've spent even more time on that leg of the stool that's so important, charging, maintenance, cleaning, and they're making progress. There's still a lot of time. There's innovative solutions that are emerging, I think, on the powering side of things. But I guess the issue is we're seeing hundreds of Waymos maybe hitting the street every month now. We know that process. We've covered it well. That's digestible for what's in the market today. Grayson, what happens when it's thousands? Hyundai's production level, or you have the huge unlock at Tesla where the technology gets to a point where they just are lighting up Ys left and right? Is the ecosystem prepared for that in this moment, or does it still need more time?
I don't necessarily know if the ecosystem's prepared for it. The market's prepared for it, and autonomy becomes a business. When that happens, and Waymo right now we know is 2,000 vehicles. Let's say when they have 3,000, 4,000, 10,000, Tesla has a similar amount. Where does the OEM come? Does the OEM become a contract manufacturer, or did the card shift where you really need the OEM to scale with the two leading companies in autonomy? That's something we're going to have to watch.
Again, I'm going to use your own numbers against you. 2,000, 3,000. Impressive. I don't mean to take anything away from Waymo. That is like stuff that they at some point will be adding into the market on a monthly basis, right? And not too far away once you get, whether it's Hyundai or they announce some new manufacturing partner. So I don't know. It's it's interesting. We also need a cleaner picture on Tesla. When we talk to this ecosystem, everyone's basically building for Waymo and the others that are in the space. but is anyone engaging on a third-party basis with Tesla? I mean, on my way down to Philly here, I drove my Model Y. I took it to a supercharger in an IKEA lot. Grayson, that can't be converted to a Robotaxi service center. It's a parking lot of an IKEA. So you can't convert that, your supercharger network, I don't think. Maybe there's a certain percentage of that you can. So where is Tesla's game plan for this important component of how this is going to work? Or is it all going to be private ownership and everyone maintains their own cars?
The supercharging network will play a critical role as we go to personally owned AVs. It could be used to charge robotaxis incrementally, but I believe that you will see a series of Tesla owned and operated depots appear around the United States, very similar to what you're seeing with the Waymo depot, which we visited in Austin, and the Move.io depots. At some point, you will see Tesla ones pop up. But let's move on to Waymo and their expansion. We got news this week that Waymo's expanding to Seattle and to Denver. A couple things that really stood out to me on that expansion. Waymo announced that Denver will become the first mixed-use city where there'll be Jaguar I-PACEs and Zeekrs. So we know the Zeekrs are getting deployed. What do you make of that expansion to the Mile High city? Somebody's going to join the Mile High Club in a Waymo. But what do you make of that expansion?
I mean, there's a couple things to unpack. First, I have to say I'm surprised, given our concern on supply and what we've been tracking, thanks to that person that is taking drone photos, not for us, but for the community. So I'm concerned. I'm not concerned, but I'm surprised, right? Let's start with the weather unlock, though, right? Denver gets snow. I mean, I think Denver plows pretty well, unlike, maybe some other cities that, like DC, that shuts down if they have like a quarter inch of precipitation. Is that a flex? Just to say, hey, we're doing Seattle, which has some weather, but Denver, which maybe has some more severe weather.
It could be. I'm sure it's a flex, but if you look at historical weather patterns in Denver, yes, we do research on Autonomy Markets. The snow comes and it's gone within a couple days.
Right. So, but there's still snow that happens, right? That has to drive through the snow, and again, maybe that's your reason when you pick those markets is to flex on that front. The other thing you mentioned the Zeekr and the Hyundai. I don't think on day one you're going to be able to pick which car you want. I think I had never been in a Zeekr. I saw it on the trade show floor. They wouldn't allow people to actually sit in it, at least people that didn't have an invitation to. So, but it seemed like a more spacious car. I might prefer Zeekr to me, given I'm a larger guy. I'd probably be more comfortable in a Zeekr, but I don't think on day one, from what I understand, you'll be able to pick the Zeekr. But I think over time, as Waymo expands and hits scale, I assume that you'll be able to pick the size of the car. I mean, once I have highways, I'm going to want to have like a larger SUV to go on some trip, as opposed to trying to stuff myself into a Jag with a couple of family members.
That's only possible if there's the Waymo app, not Uber, because you can't pick your vehicle on Uber. It goes back to the Forrest Gump line. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And part of this announcement, not one mention of Uber, but I also will caveat that there wasn't a mention of any partner, but it seems very odd, no mention of Uber.
Okay, well, let me just unpack a couple of things you just said there. I mean, yeah, you can't do that on Uber today, but there's no reason why Uber in the future, first, I don't know what's taking so long, but gets like a Waymo app that will feed you a Jag or a Zeekr. But there's no reason that at some point Uber couldn't add Waymo Jag, Waymo, Zeekr, or base it on size. So I push back on that. In terms of the partnerships, you're right. There are no partnerships announced on Denver and Seattle. I'm going to, go counter grain to this. Every time there's been a reaction, let's go back to Austin and some of that, Yipit data, and then going to the next market. Like, just because there's no partner announced today doesn't mean there won't be one prior to when Denver and Seattle actually launch. In fact, I would think that there will be one. Now, that partner could be an Avis, a third party, but Waymo doesn't want to build, I don't think, that element of the stool, that third element of the stool, that part of the ecosystem that you and I both find so important. So I think there's still an opportunity for Uber to step into those Denver and Seattle markets. I have no idea. This is pure speculation. But I think there will be a partner announced prior to launch. And I'm not going to rule out Uber. Will you?
Yes. And I'm going to use Waymo's own words against them. When Waymo announced Austin and when they announced Atlanta, which I call the double A's, exclusively available on Uber, was the exact branding the time they announced the city, not launched the city, the same campaigns in both cities. Denver, nothing, no announcement. Seattle, no announcement. So I'm going to say no. Do I believe there will be an infrastructure depot partner? Yes. Is it Avis? That's anyone's guess. Is it Avoma? That's anyone's guess. Is it Move.io? That's anyone's guess. But I do believe at some point there will be a depot partner, or perhaps there's a depot partner that Waymo's currently negotiating, but we don't know with yet that they want to test. But no, I do not see this being an Uber market.
I love your certainty. And I'm not going to say with certainty there is an Uber market, but I'm not as convinced as you are that Uber is out of the mix in terms of those two markets. The other question I have for you, Grayson, is I thought AVs, autonomous vehicles, were not permitted in those cities based on regulation. So, like, I assume that they expect to hash that out, but by the time that they launch, but like, why even? It gets back to the age-old question: why bother with these cities that don't like you, and maybe find more cities that are more embracing of new technology?
We had a scare earlier this year with Colorado looking to ban autonomous vehicles. They are legal. They're able to operate in Colorado. The Colorado governor came out and endorsed Waymo going there. So I want to clarify that for the record. So the legal framework is there. But in Washington State, Seattle, no, there is no regulatory framework to deploy commercial autonomous vehicles with drive route. You can do testing with a driver behind a safety wheel now. You cannot deploy. And there's a pattern emerging here. You go into Boston, you have Mayor Wu, doesn't want you. We can get in the headlines if you want. You go into New York, you get permission from Mayor Adams, but let's just look at polling. If all points to it, Mayor Adams is not going to be the next mayor. It's going to be Mondavi. And so you have those politics that are emerging there. You have those politics there. And then if you look at Seattle, you have you have a situation evolving. You have a mayor that is polling over 50% coming in, 12 years in transit, that wants to do one thing, Walt. Give me a drum roll here. Ban personal vehicles and force everybody into transit. So here come the bullets. Oh, you just say this. 12 years as an advocate for this. She is a self-declared socialist who wants to ban cars. So why announce you're going there when you have this regulatory environment and all the polling data points to this individual becoming the next mayor? I don't get it. This seems to me that this is a Boston 2.0 mistake.
I love when we get to the part of the podcast where Grayson hits the boy, oh boy. I don't know what socialism, whether someone is that or not, has anything to do with autonomous vehicles. I think that in some, countries, obviously, autonomous vehicles are thriving. In terms of public transit advocates, I mean, that also is a head scratcher because it's like what we covered last week with cyclist advocates, when autonomy can, in fact, save their lives for the reasons we outlined. Same thing with public transit. I mean, you're getting people to not own their cars, right? To use cheaper robotaxis, which, by the way, are electric and better for the environment. And, I don't think you have any gas-powered autonomous fleets that are out there. And then if someone is now using an autonomous fleet, they're probably more likely to use public transit and integrate that. I think Uber's actually done that in terms of integration to their app. So, like, to the extent that and I don't know if they aren't in this market, but to the extent that public transit advocates would be against autonomous fleets are effectively a form of public transit. So it's kind of a bizarre view.
It's not a form of public transit. It is private enterprise, and these certain advocates believe that it should be owned and operated by the government. You should put 30 to 40 people in a vehicle here. And the individual who is most likely to become the mayor of Seattle, her name is Katie Wilson. She is the co-founder of the Seattle Transit Riders Union. I said 12 years experience. I checked the notes. She has 15 years experience. And I want to read you a quote from her campaign manager here that share with Streets blogs. His name is Alex Gallo Brown. And Mr. Brown stated the following in a public statement to Street Blog, and quote, "Many people in Seattle are hungry for a city that doesn't require car dependency in order to live a good life," end quote. I'm going to ask you point blank. That's the campaign manager. I'm reading between the lines here. I'm putting on my political hat. That's an outright movement towards potentially banning a vehicle. So here's the question. Who the heck is running Waymo policy, and why are these decisions being made?
For sure. Like, public ownership of stuff, fits the isms that you're trying to put on there. But I'm saying, like, in markets where, they have public transit, state-owned public transit. They also allow autonomy in private vehicles. So my only point is that if, it is consistent with getting rid of consumer private ownership to embrace autonomy, because ultimately if autonomy can deliver you a price per mile that's below the cost to own a car, then you're going to naturally shift there. Now, obviously, there's a difference between letting the markets do that and have the market dynamics get to that end game versus others believe that you want government with their heavy hand to do that. I get it. There's a difference there. But ultimately, if you're really intent on helping the environment, improving traffic, and again, something that we've said before, saving lives. Like, does anyone out there care about saving the 40,000 deaths that occur on our roads every year? Like, does that ever factor into it and like getting to a point that, you're going to get to that's going to achieve that goal? But, I digress. And hopefully these things, and again, I think the bigger issue, as I said before, is that when other cities implement and embrace autonomy, they see a reduction in deaths. They see how it helps on a variety of fronts. It's just going to put pressure on those cities that have resisted.
And you know what else it does when cities embrace autonomy? And this is multiple, and I want to say this is public data that you can go source from the cities. You see a sharp decline in DUIs. And if you speak with police officers, law enforcement officers, and you say, why is that? They said, because people can get in there, they don't have to talk to anybody. And they still sense that they have their sense of freedom because there is the driver issue if you're intoxicated. And I'm dead serious, and that's public data. So there's a lot of good that comes with this. A lot of good.
Now, Grayson, there's another angle on this, which is like, stuff that we've talked about with the new administration, which is a national framework. And I got a lot of inbounds this week because there was some news out of the Department of Transportation and Secretary Duffy making some progress. Was that part of a movement towards the national framework?
It's a very positive step in the right direction towards a national framework. I want to clarify for the listeners and viewers, in order to enact a national framework, it has to be an act of Congress signed by the president. It cannot be done by an executive order or by our wonderful Secretary of Transportation, Mr. Duffy, but it's a really positive step in the right direction of laying the groundwork and the framework to enable Congress to introduce, hopefully pass, and the president to sign a national autonomous vehicle framework.
But what exactly happened this week? What was the change that happened in the Department of Transportation?
I'm going to put on policy wonk here, so I'm warning you because I gotta read these to you here from the notes. It will remove the requirement that a transmission shift position sequence starter interlock and transmission braking. So basically it means that a human has to put the car into gear. So that's what that means. That rule now is going away in 2026. Another rule going away requirement is windshield defrosting and defogging systems. Okay, so if you're in an autonomous vehicle, you don't have to have the systems. That's no longer going to become a requirement. Then the last one is lamps, reflective devices, and associated equipment are going away. It's all the things that you have to have on a traditional car that's operated by a human that are going away. It's a big positive step.
So for that first one, I just think about, because yesterday I started my trip in my garage and I hit FSD, and to initiate it, Tesla basically has you touch the brake. So I guess the difference is I won't have to touch the brake in terms of the private ownership to get it started. I can just walk in with my phone and get and have it go. Do you think that's the reason they have you touch the brake before the FSD starts?
Ladies and gentlemen, Walt's a policy analyst now. Way to go, Walt! You nailed it. Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I guess it's a good step. But how does this step from Duffy send a message to Congress? It feels like Congress is its own kind of crazy beast that beats to its own drum. Like, does this really have anything to do with the national framework, or is just Duffy doing what he can do? But obviously, we have to wait for an act of Congress here.
It has a lot to do with the national framework, and it sends a message to the markets that you so brilliantly cover, and it sends a market to industry that President Trump and the Trump administration is a pro-innovation, pro-autonomy, pro-growth administration, and that they want to see this technology happen and thrive and prosper in America.
So let's go back to the expansion, because that's the theme of the overall podcast. It wasn't just Denver and Seattle that were added, but in San Jose, Waymo also added the airport, which was great. I don't know, though, if that unlock was regulatory or technology. I think one of the things that we've talked about before in terms of San Francisco SFO was the fact that in order to get to that airport, you have to get on the highway, and Waymo hadn't unlocked the highway. So in San Jose, I think what I remember about it is you can get there on a local road, and I think also Glideways is building a quote unquote autonomous connection into the San Jose airport as well. So maybe it's just there that it's a regulatory. They're much more embracing of technology, maybe at the San Jose airport, because I think you can get there without highway. What am I missing here? What's your read on the San Jose in terms of what the unlock was there?
The unlock was purely regulatory. If you see the public statement made by the airport commissioner that they want this technology there, the San Jose airport views this is in quote there, as the gateway to Silicon Valley. They wanted to embrace this technology. And I want to point out to our listeners and viewers, we collectively, because we are together, called this 5 months ago when we said September. So we called this 5 months ago on Autonomy Markets. So I want to take a moment to pat ourselves on the back. We called it.
You love the back patting. So maybe you called it. I don't remember calling it myself. So I think you can pat your own back on that one. San Francisco, though, to me is more interesting. No offense to San Jose. Lovely city. But for San Fran, they still haven't unlocked the highways. We still see stuff online in terms of Waymos on the highways. So they continue to test, right? Like, what do you think that the holdup is at San Francisco? And is it possible that like Waymo's just like, look, we're not, even though we can do highways today, we're not going to do it until we get the airport? That seems kind of silly, but what do you think the holdup is?
Politics. And I want to read a statement here from the SFO spokesperson that was given to SF Gate this week. And I'm going to quote this. His name is Mr. Doug Yakel, end quote. We continue to meet with Waymo on the terms of a permit for operations at SFO. No timeline set for this, but we're actively meeting on this. That's gibberish, one. Second of all, that's called stalling tactics. There is political pressure from certain special interests, which I will not name today because I don't want to get in a fight, that do not want Waymo to operate at the airport. And the way it's structured with the commission that oversees it, it's going to be a lot more difficult from a political regulatory standpoint to operate SFO than it was from San Jose, because the airport commissioner of San Jose has the ability, the legal authority to make that decision. San Francisco, you have to go to a complete airport commission. If you look at the backgrounds and bios of those individuals, to Waymo, you got an uphill road. I'm really sorry.
And it definitely seems political, given my experience at San Francisco, because when you get off at San Francisco, Uber is very well integrated, meaning that if I pay more and I get like a business car or a black car service, whatever the category they call it in that city, I can get picked up basically right at the curb at the airport. I know you don't like to walk. I don't mind walking. When you walk, they have these basically parking garages. It's very well organized. It would seem quite easy for them just to enable a Waymo to go in there. And clearly, we've been in enough Waymos to know that technology can easily handle the parking garage pickup situation that exists today for Uber. So, you can handle it. You've got the capacity to handle it. So, it's really kind of pathetic that they're preventing competition for their citizens, because competition is what drives prices down and is good for the consumer. Why is San Francisco anti-consumer, Grayson?
Special interest, lobbyists. There's the old saying, follow the money. There's a reason that you said here, very well organized. We have to walk. No, we didn't. When you and I were in Austin, we're huffing it out to nowhere land. You go to Las Vegas airport, you huff it out to nowhere land. San Francisco, up an elevator that's broken half the time, or escalators, walk here, do. It's not well organized. I'm sorry. It's what the reason it was done, you hit the nail on the head. It's called stifling competition to protect the incumbents. That's all this is, point blank.
Grayson, everyone needs to get their steps in. By the way, people, it's no longer 10,000, it's 8,000. Just get your 8,000 steps in, whether it's an airport or otherwise, for more longevity. But by the way, so Waymo was not the only company that was expanding. We had a Tesla expansion this week in a different way, in that they opened the waitlist for the, getting the Robotaxi app. So rather than, obviously we were able to get access to that about a month ago, and you can go back to our video and our experience in Austin, but now anyone can can download the app. I think there'll still probably be wait lists given the limitation of cars that they have in that market, because you still have a safety attendant in the car. But this is a milestone met for Tesla.
Walt, the fitness director, called it a milestone. So it is a milestone. It is a milestone here. But to me, what this symbolizes is the beginning of Robotaxi, 1, becoming a business, and 2, scaling. You go through X and you see all these photos and videos of people enjoying and using service. Yes, there's a safety attendant in California. Yes, there's a safety attendant in the passenger seat in Austin. But this marks the beginning of truly scaling Robotaxi to become a business.
Well, first of all, I want to just clarify some language, the way I'm going to use it, because I think we will, given our weekly podcast, we're going to start defining terms for this industry, and we're going to get it in the lexicon of people. Safety driver is what they have in California, because he's in the driver's seat. Safety attendant, when someone's in the passenger seat. That is what I'm going to call it from now on. They have a safety driver in California. They have a safety attendant there. But look, it's fine that they're going to have potentially more critical people. I think there might be still some control of who they put on there and not. But it's not a mega sign. This is why we said earlier in the podcast that Waymo clearly won this week based on their advancements. But there were some tangible, almost like free advertising in the fact that Robotaxi did pretty well on the iOS App Store. What data do you have on that, Grayson?
The data we have in the free category for travel, the #1 most downloaded app, and overall for free apps, the #8 most downloaded app. So there's clearly interest and there's clearly traction. Whether that converts or not, unsure, but people are downloading apps.
I mean, that is great for discovery. Not that Tesla has a branding issue. I mean, they sell a shit ton of Teslas with really no advertising. But certainly for Robotaxi, something more positive. Also, I think this week, you saw the board is looking at incenting Elon with maybe $1 trillion stock award or something like that. I haven't looked at the details yet, but I can't wait to see the milestones. I would guess that a lot of them are going to be tied to the progress of Robotaxi. But when you put a financial milestone like that there, again, this is not something that's not obviously a focus. Obviously, this is the future for Tesla. It's certainly not going to be just selling cars. It's going to be getting autonomy to work so that you have, even more demand for these cars.
It's autonomy and it's also Optimus. And if we go back about a decade, remember with the first pay package, he'll never achieve it. He'll never achieve it. He'll never achieve it. All the chattering clustering is. He achieved it. I mean, this is a major milestone. My whole thing, and I'll say this very publicly, you don't bet against the gentleman. He's delivered. Yes, the timeline slips, but you don't bet against him. But I want to ask you for a prediction here. Tesla with Robotaxi started putting paying passengers on highways. Yes, with a safety driver. But prediction row here. Who unlocks driver out on the highway first? Waymo or Tesla Robotaxi? In any market, not all markets, but any market.
Well, that's why I think it was good that I defined the terms of safety driver versus safety attendant. So if you consider driver out moving the safety driver into the passenger seat, thereby calling him a safety attendant, then sure, like Tesla could get there before Waymo. And like what I've seen in the world of telecom is like when AT&T is about to announce something, T-Mobile always tries to announce something the day before. Or you'll notice the day AT&T reports earnings, T-Mobile will always like announce something the day before. So I'm sure the people at Waymo are keeping a close eye on when they're going to go to highways so that they can try and open up a highway in California to get there before them, because it'll be on our clock, right? We will then, now that we're on a focus on it, we will advertise this company got there first. Although, again, in defense of our Waymo fans out there, because we've got Waymo fans and Tesla fans that are listeners to the podcast, and we love, again, all the interaction, especially last week, another great set of feedback from the podcast. The Waymo people will have a legit argument saying like safety attendant highway is not the same as driver out. What say you to that, Grayson?
I'm going to go back to you, Professor Walt. How do we define the terms? Because Elon tweeted on September 4th the following, and quote, "The safety driver is just there for the first few months to be extra safe. Should be no safety driver by the end of the year," end quote. How is he defining safety driver? That's the question.
I think he's defining it as I just did, which is you move him to the passenger seat or her, and that is what he's saying, safety driver. So there's safety driver, and then there's the attendant. And by the way, there is a difference. If someone's not sitting there with their hands basically hovering over the wheel, there is a difference there. But so I guess I'm going to flip the question back to you. So I'm saying that Tesla will get there first with a safety attendant. But my question is, which will get there first with no one from the company, at least, in either of the driver or the front passenger seat?
I believe by the end of the year, so we're September, by December 31st, 2025, in select markets, Waymo will be operating full driver out on highways, probably to start under limited circumstances. But I do believe it will be Waymo first.
And taking passengers, got it.
Paying passengers.
Okay, so there you have it. That's kind of the safe bet there. So that's fine. So again, so good. So expansion, right? So highway with a safety driver. So Tesla had nice expansion, nice progress. Waymo wins this week. What else do we have in the world of autonomy, Grayson?
You said it right. We're covering the entire ecosystem, not just Tesla, not just Waymo. This week, Avride officially announced that they are launching service in Dallas on the Uber platform by the end of the year. I believe they're going to launch with safety drivers at first, but this is another partner coming onto the Uber network in a new market.
So is this safety driver, you think, a regulatory issue? Because it's not new that they're going to be in Dallas with Uber in that timeline. I think that's been talked about before. We got out on the road. We have video of this on Autonomy Markets of us in the back seat of an Avride or Avride, however you pronounce it, with no driver no safety driver. They had a safety attendant, Grayson, meaning a person in the passenger seat. I'm gonna definitely make this new terminology work. No safety driver, safety attendant. So let's get back to the story here. Why when they start in Dallas are they doing safety driver? Is it just to be safe? Is it regulatory? What's the deal here?
I believe it's to be safe, and they're taking a phased approach. I could see a very similar approach to Tesla. They start with a safety driver, and using Walt's term, they move to a safety attendant, and they move to full, complete driver out. I believe it's a phased approach. The regulatory environment in Texas today allows for full driver out. The question, which we do not know, which we have listeners at Uber, was this a requirement of Uber, or was this Avride taking a very cautious safety-first approach? That's something that we should hopefully learn.
I will say this. Uber is not PACCAR. And for our listeners, you know what I'm referring to, which is that PACCAR is the truck partner to Aurora, and they're super conservative and force them to put the safety driver in. I think Uber is more technology forward, and probably they are not my guess, I have no idea, but they are not the restrictor here. I think this is just this company trying to step. And look, the other thing to do is, like, if you start with a safety driver and then take the safety driver out, you create another news cycle of people talking about the company. We will talk about Avride here again on the Autonomy Markets when they take that safety driver out in Dallas. We will also be talking about them when we get back in their cars again. I think we're the only ones with video of the car with the driver out. We'll get back in there again in Dallas. We plan to spend a lot of time in Texas over the next year for trucking and autonomy. So maybe it's just a news cycle aspect as well. But it's good to get out on the road and see this. We met the team there, and it's great to see this progress for them in Dallas.
It was great to meet the team, and they're a Hyundai partner, and the vehicles will be manufactured by Hyundai. And we love getting out on the road in Autonomy Markets. This week, you got out on the road. You're in Philadelphia now, but earlier in the week, you were in New York, and you went and visited Tensor Auto. What did you learn? What did you see?
I headed into the city. That's not quite the same type of travel as heading to Texas or Atlanta or Ann Arbor or these other places that we've gone to see this car. It was parked in front of the city conference. Thank you for the listeners that recognized me and said hello while I was checking out this car and talking to them. We definitely have more to learn with Tensor. They have what seems to me is very ambitious plans to get to production and deliver cars by the end of next year, made in Thailand and delivered it. I think it's to Dubai by the end of next year. I'm a little confused because, first of all, there is a driving wheel. You press a button, I can send the video, and the driving wheel kind of disappears into the dashboard. But I was like, okay, can I come visit you in San Jose and check it out on the roads? And they're like, well, you can check it out, but it has to be in our parking lot. And I'm like, so you're basically, if I'm coming in as a visitor, I have to try it in your parking lot, but you're almost going or in the process of going to production. It seems like there's a disconnect there. I mean, I would hope that they're already testing on the roads, but if you're confident enough in the technology, then I would think it shouldn't be a problem for us to get out there and get on a road. I mean, I've been in 18 wheelers, on the roads of California. I was in Zooks. How many, this feels like years ago now on roads in California. Why should I be in a parking lot? So this person may have misspoke, and maybe we'll be able to get to San Jose. So Tensor, for our Tensor listeners, we'll be out in California soon. Let's get on the road with the handful of cars that you have in California operating right now.
To the Tensor audience, we'd love to experience your vehicle. Perhaps the parking lot could be because they haven't received their California autonomous driving permit yet. That is a possibility. As it relates to the vehicle being manufactured, just for clarity, is being manufactured in Vietnam by VinFast. So you have the ability to scale production. It perhaps is just a regulatory environment, but we always appreciate you getting out on the road and bringing new details to us.
Yeah, they're very friendly. I think there's a lot of willingness to try and promote their vehicle for sure at Tensor, formerly X Auto. I was asking about Professor X, which we love. I'm not sure he goes by Professor X anymore, but they're on the radar. We'll see, and we hope to spend more time to kind of figure out where exactly they are on that progress towards autonomy. What else do we have in autonomy this week, Grayson?
Autonomy, we had a pretty big headline that crossed Bloomberg, where Daimler Truck is looking to raise capital to help fund Torc. And there's two interesting things in this Bloomberg article. One, this never really happens that I don't see much. Daimler Truck went on the record and confirmed it's true in the Bloomberg article. That's interesting. And then, Walt, I need a seatbelt because I'm going to fall out of my chair on this. I couldn't believe it. Torc is burning $660 million a year. That's right, $660 million. And I want to put this number into perspective with you because this is fascinating. This is all based on SEC filings. Since Kodiak's founding 8 years ago, they've only raised $243 million. That's right, only $243 million. They're generating revenue, and they've achieved driver-out commercial operations. And then Aurora, the biggest company out there in autonomous trucking, has spent $676 million. That was in 2024, according to their SEC filing. They've gone driver out. How the heck is Torc spending $660 million? I'm sorry, I can't get over that. What are they doing with it?
I mean, I think you pointed out Aurora spends a lot of money, but there's others that don't. Like May Mobility is very capitally efficient. Noro's on the more capital spending side of things. It's probably this Autonomy 2.0, and I think everyone's spending should reduce over time because of the benefits of AI. It's also I don't think it's that big of a deal for them to go and raise external capital. I mean, didn't Waymo raise some external capital as well? I mean, you see this at large companies, especially for a large or like an auto company that sees these big cash burn numbers. They want to offload that, I think, to someone else in terms of the cash burn. So I don't really look more into the capital raise than that. It seems like kind of a normal thing for the company to do. Do you disagree?
It just seemed odd that the company went on the record in a Bloomberg article, the bank is Bank of America. It just seemed very odd because when Waymo announced their external fundraising with Silver Lake and T. Rowe and other large institutions, there wasn't a Bloomberg article, there wasn't a Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. It was, hi, Waymo's raised external capital, and then put in your corporate press release. This, to me, I'm just going to say it. It just didn't really necessarily add up. I think there's more to the picture here. I'm just speculating. I don't know. But it seems to me there's more to the picture based on the way these deals are historically done and presented to the market.
I mean, there's a huge difference between a subsidiary of Google, right, or Alphabet or whatever you want to call them, and Torc Robotics, which no one's heard of. There's plenty of institutional investors that have tons of money that know Google and know Waymo because, of their presence in the market that will never have heard of Torc. So I think that is why you might have to leak or somehow, get press to try and drive some interest in investing in the company. So I think that's the explanation of the difference there.
No, I'm going to harp on this. I still can't get over the $660 million a year burn where Kodiak, they're 7 years old, they're burning $34.7 million a year on average. Where's this disconnect?
Well, sometimes you get what you pay for. No offense, but we'll have to see. I'm not going to, just like I'll say, I'll reserve judgment on the need for LiDAR or, and for those that are against camera. I'm going to say I'm going to remove any judgment on the need for capital or whether you do need capital. I mean, because obviously we've seen, for example, X function as a company after cutting a lot of their investments, but in other cases, companies that do invest in advancements on AI, have a lead. Now, clearly there's a specific issue there, which is like compute costs money. I get it. But just because someone spends more money, maybe their technology is ultimately going to win as a result. I don't know.
I'm going to reserve judgment, and I'll say this. We will monitor the story as it develops, and if they are successful in raising the outside capital, we'll analyze it and we'll discuss it. And not going to happen next week, but when it does, we'll analyze it. Next week, what do we need to look for in the autonomy markets? Because we're back in full bloom now.
Well, Grayson, as you know, I wear a broader TMT hat at Lightshed. So for me, the big event is the Apple event, where they're going to launch some new phones. We also have a ton of investor conferences. I think Mobileye and among others speak, but the one I'm looking at is Aurora. Chris Urmson, CEO of Aurora, is speaking. I mean, Chris, you should give an update on miles, trucks on the road, lanes, any progress with Volvo. They've been doing a good job with their YouTube channel, saying like, here it is in the dark, here it is with rain, or whatever it is. But like, give us some more facts at this conference that you're speaking at. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're gonna have, and obviously maybe we'll have a weekly event in terms of who won this week, Waymo and Tesla, in our expansion battle, and maybe you should generate some merch that has a color. We have such avid and smart supporters that really believe in Waymo, that are listeners, and those that are also very smart that really believe in Tesla. And the Waymo and the Tesla supporters each think the other side is idiots. So maybe we make up some type of winner of the week with a different color shirt that you can sell, and then you will wear whatever color is the winner of the week in the expansion at that point.
I love that idea. Let's get to work. Let's get designing this and keep the interaction going. And when we do sell the merch, send us photos, and perhaps we'll feature you on the show at some point. And you and I know next week there's one thing that's going to happen, because there's a pattern. Most likely, we're going to get the Thursday news dump where Tesla's going to announce something, Waymo's going to announce something, and then we're going to analyze it on Autonomy Markets. Be sure to tune in every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. The future is bright. The future is autonomous. The future is Tesla and Waymo. Now the question is, who wins next week? Walt, until next week.